study of communications. It's more complex than you think, and you are more complex than you think. When you study with CCPA, you will be part of a community that celebrates, supports, and helps you define your passion and craft your journey ahead. Perhaps you enrolled in this course knowing that you will major in communications and public affairs. Or maybe your major is undeclared and you are wondering if CCPA is your path. Or you are majoring in another discipline, but have an interest in communications. This course is for you. In this course, we will journey through the 5 major specializations within the Division of Corporate Communications and Public Affairs: nonprofit and arts leadership, organizational communication, public affairs and political communication, social innovation, creative and arts entrepreneurship, and public relations and strategic communication. But our work does not end there. There are 2 more key components: an exploration of you and an exploration of ethics, plus elements designed to show you the many SMU resources outside of the classroom that can enrich your learning. To help craft your journey to match your passion, you will complete self-assessment exercises to better understand you. What is your personality type, temperament? How are we each different and perhaps alike? Importantly, how can that knowledge help inform the best life vision for you? You will also engage in discussions regarding ethics across the communications field. The goal? To guide you in becoming an ethical leader. And then comes the magic. A light bulb will hopefully spark when you take all of this learning and bring it together to craft your direction. You will be better equipped to choose the ideal SMU major or minor for you, to become ready to pursue your vision for your life. So as you get ready to start this course, think, do I see myself as a public relations leader, crafting compelling and strategic messages tailored to resonate with key publics? Maybe communicating those messages via traditional news media, social media, your organization's website, or any number of channels to drive results. Or perhaps public service is your passion. Are you interested in public policy initiatives, or do you envision a life in Washington, D.C., or Dallas, or your hometown, working in public affairs, or maybe political communication for an elected official? Maybe you want to give back and contribute to the greater good, to make an impact by founding a social venture or leading an existing nonprofit or artistic organization. Or you might hope to lead the effective operation of an organization as a change management, leadership development, or maybe a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader. The opportunities in CCPA are endless. Business and politics, entertainment and sports, nonprofits and research think tanks, fashion and technology. Ethical and strategic communicators are in demand. So get ready to ignite your spark. Let the survey of CCPA begin.
To take us through, this is part of our branding. We have collateral, which hopefully you can access if you need to, but join us in CCPA. Our goal is to guide students in making an impact in an organization they care about or starting an organization of their own, because we do have that dual approach. We have our CCPA, and as you journey through the division, you'll also see that we have the new arts entrepreneurship programming within our division. So there's quite a bit of diversity within the majors. My next slides I've pulled together, I went into my LinkedIn, honestly, and grabbed some quick profiles of students who I've taught across the years to show what they are doing, how students are making a difference. And what you'll see as we go into this is the sheer diversity of sectors, of job titles, of places within industry or within politics our students land or venture. So it's not that they're all going straight into a communication role. I pulled D'Angelo Garner, who now has his MSBA. D'Angelo graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Strategic Communication in PRSC. And then I worked with D'Angelo upon graduation. And when you see here, business analyst with Quilt, this is a startup that he worked with as a senior student in our Boulevard Campaigns course. And then I brought him in. I'm an advisor to that particular startup. I brought D'Angelo into that company, and he grew, and he chose to go on into digital analytics. And today he's a management consultant. Okay, so he took the business and digital analytics path. Cassie Ackerman, another strong student who played basketball for SM Sports, went off to do her master's work and moved through from social media coordinator at NBC Sports and now up to Greenfly, where she works significantly within that business end of college sports. Okay, so she took her degree in that way. And here, Tulsi, who is a senior this year and is doing amazing things within the Texas House of Representatives. And Tulsi's major is CCPA with political communication as an emphasis. So 3 students, all within our division, in 3 very different directions. So studying communication within our division, what is that about? At its core, so with that, these are our majors. Most of you on the line likely are familiar with this. I put them together in a triangle form. So I know there were some questions about what is CCPA and what is PRSC, and I will go into that. So there are 2 majors. Students can either pick a Bachelor of Arts in CCPA or Corporate Communication and Public Affairs, or students can elect a Bachelor of Arts in Public Relations and Strategic Communication, or PRSC. Within our curriculum overview guide, and if you don't have that, I'm happy to send a copy to Caroline. It details the core requirements and the courses for each of those majors. Now, CCPA, as you see here, I've put on the triangle a header: nonprofit and arts leadership, political communication, organizational communication, social innovation, creative, and arts entrepreneurship. Those students will all graduate with their degree in CCPA or corporate communication. Public relations and strategic communication sits on its own, and we have probably equal. Our major, PRSC, has the same or more majors as all of the CCPA tracks combined. PRSC students graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Public Relations, Strategic Communication. Now, at the core, every single one of our students, regardless of major, is required to take communication theory, our statistics course, which is our research course. Then we split. CCPA students must take rhetoric, and PRSC students must take free speech and First Amendment, because we sit in public relations side by side with journalists. Okay, so we're the voice or the journalist for the company or organization or individual, and we connect with the journalists who are writing the stories. So we must be very well versed in free speech. After that core, and all students are required to take these classes, and in their 3 classes achieve an average of 3.0 or higher in order to apply to the division and then be admitted. Okay. And any questions on that, on the majors or how it's structured? I'm going to add more context. Okay. This is a little bit more detail, and you can look at this at a later time, of if you sit with a student in advising and that student asks, what is organizational communication? You can turn to this, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more. In particular, I'll talk more to public relations, but org-com, that's the short word for organizational communication. That's, inside the organization. So those communication within the workplace, oftentimes aligned with human resources at times, leadership development, but also that design of the corporate structure, the culture, the vision, the values, living those and embodying those. You would start tracking into organizational communication. And I'm always happy to sit with students on what could be next after your bachelor's. Nonprofit and arts leadership is very clear. That is very specialized coursework because nonprofit is its own study because the way a nonprofit operates is very lean. There's few paid employees. You're running by volunteers, and then you need donors. Okay, so and a lot of liaisoning with political or public affairs in order to get funding, et cetera. So nonprofit leadership. Public Affairs and Political Communication, which is directed by Professor Chris Salinas. This is truly that group that goes to Hilltop and goes off to DC, might be wanting to get into lobbying, or as we saw with Tulsi, work for a representative, move into a think tank. And then we have Social Innovation, Creative and Arts by Jim Hart, which is our entrepreneurship track within Meadows. So students who say did not get accepted to Cox, or are art students who would like to run their own business. We teach that. We teach it through the lens, though, of arts and social innovation. So it's a different approach to entrepreneur teaching. And then we have PRSC, which is external communication. This is the field I've worked in for my career, although I've consulted in organizational communication as well. Public relations, we're communicating externally. And data analytics, business objectives, crisis response is the emphasis we have in our program. Our professors in PRSC, most all of us hold dual MA, MBAs. So you do get that MBA approach to teaching within this division. And then I'm on my other screen, I apologize. So as a zoom in, I'm taking us to zoom in on PRSC, one, because it's my background and I direct this division. So it's my baby, so I was going to sell it to the students, but so I'll sell it to you. So when we talk about public relations, the first thing I want to really make clear is we're not teaching our students to become publicists. Okay, so all too often it's thought students will come in that way, come in and say, oh, I want to be a social media manager and I want to do this. And we will teach you that, but we will teach you so much more because public relations and strategic communication is responsible for this entire stakeholder universe for an organization. So we are teaching that PRSC students and those who practice, for example, we are going to communicate with the board, funders. We will maybe even have public affairs representatives. If we're in a smaller organization, we might need to be the one communicating with elected officials and policymakers, community leaders, neighbors. But the big one, and I don't know if you see my cursor, is media. The public relations professional is the media connector. So we train our students extensively. It's heavy writing training, journalism classes, media relations, and then working with clients to bring their story to the public. So with this, I go into media extensively because public relations students and graduates work across channels to achieve business goals. This is the PESO model, but public relations works across paid media, so maybe sponsorships, events. We put influencers in this bucket because oftentimes we are paying influencers today. The big differentiator for public relations is earned. Public relations is the body within an organization who will pitch and secure news coverage. Okay, so we work with media and analysts, bloggers, and again, influencers. Shared is social media, maybe review channels, etc., and own. The public relations team is going to own the website. We'll work with marketing on collateral, the blogs that are coming out, the white papers, if an organization's running webinars. So every single piece of communication that comes out of an organization and goes out to the public through these various channels is owned by the public relations team. And this is the direction our students are heading. They're learning to run this for a company. Okay. So any questions on public relations? Or oftentimes people don't know the difference between public relations and advertising. And I can, if you have questions there, I'm happy to answer. So I'll pause for a minute since I've put a lot of information out there. So communication as a management function If we had students on the line, I was going to take them into Nike, which I won't do with you all. But next time you're online, or say you are shopping, if you scroll down to the bottom of that organization, you will see sections such as press room, about us, careers, investors. Public relations is going to be responsible for the press room. We will be responsible at some levels for the investor page, and our students can become investor relations practitioners where they interface between a publicly traded company and the investment community. We will be responsible for blog content. We basically today, because of online media, organizations have their own journalistic or public relations talent. We have significant amount of writers. So writing is core to what we do because we will be in writing on behalf of the company and putting that information out there. So a company like Nike is going to have orgcom, organizational communication leaders, working on internal communication and communicating to all those who lead to the effective operation. It will have public relations teams, and then there will be those who interface on behalf of Nike, perhaps lobbying Capitol Hill, working on policy, or issues come up with offshoring. There's so much that we teach our students. So we do teach them to look at the social, economic, and political landscape as communicators so that they're poised to help their organizations succeed in a changing environment. And today, with the new administration, it is a very, I would say, dynamic and changing time for communicators because now we have to respond. We have to determine what the public message or voice is going to be. Are we going to agree or disagree? Stay true to our values or shift and maybe not stay true to our values and go on with a different line? As you saw, I had DEI in my presentation. And companies who support that, you'll see in the news, some are saying we're going to stand true to our values and we're not going to take any of that out of our language. And others who might be more beholden to the value of the stock market or other decisions, right? What are those triggers? So the communicator is also the conscience and the voice to go into the boardroom, and we teach our students that. So we always say we're not preparing them for their first job, but we are preparing them for the job 4 steps ahead so that you have the ability to be the conscience to build trust and transparency between that organization or that individual and the publics with which or whom it connects. So what classes will you take? At a glance, this is in our curriculum guide, but I pulled this up. So if you are a PRSC major, this is a sample of how you would track through from freshman year through to senior year. You'll see that we have survey in here now that you can actually get into survey, but as you look at the classes, you'll see quite a bit of writing and digital. Seminar is about bringing in industry leaders. So it's a rotation of leaders who speak to the students, and the students are expected to interact professionally. You'll also see Boulevard Consulting. This is a campaigns class where our students work with clients. And then internship. All students in CCPA and PRSC are required to complete a 150-hour internship. And I teach that class now. I also teach public speaking and crisis. Okay. And then this one was orgcom. So the difference that you'll see is rhetoric comes in and applied orgcom, they just have some differences. Financial communication is orgcom's version of finance. We have a different finance class, but all students are exposed to finance and get an MBA, mini MBA in 1 semester, so that when you walk through the halls of corporate America, you understand what's being talked about. When you hear numbers, you're not afraid of numbers.
Pam, I have a question about those. If students aren't able to either, we have a lot of students interested in the 1301 course, but aren't able to get in maybe their first fall, or maybe they get in the spring and they're starting to take those 2310, 2327, and 3300 in their sophomore year. Is it okay to take some of these courses that are right now laid out for sophomore and junior year in their senior year with those internships? end courses as well? Is it okay to kind of bump those back potentially a year?
Well, 23-27, remember, you're in here, your theory, your statistics, and your rhetoric for the CCPA track have to be completed before you're admitted into the major. So you
Right.
can't track into any other classes until those are done. And the other thing I'd advise students, if a student has had a difficult time and could not access 1301, and that student knows that he or she wants to major in CCPA, you do not need to take 1301. Okay, so 1301 is not a requirement, it's an option. What it does allow freshmen to do, if they did get it in the fall, it allows those students to get on the track or start taking 23-27 earlier,
Mhm.
but it's not a requirement. So if your student is coming in later, they don't need to take that class. But if they want to explore the majors in a deeper way, then they maybe would take that concurrently with, say, 23-27, if the student knows he or she wants to go CCPA.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Mhm,
I have students that they're in their second year, but they're technically not sophomores. They
mhm.
have like 28 hours, let's say, and they want to do CCPA, and like, so they can't technically get into 23-27 because they're not sophomore standing. Is there a way, like, could they ask permission from your department to get into those classes, or?
Yes, so what I would do with those students, do you all know Melissa Austin, formerly Melissa Keene? Okay, so Melissa will handle things such as that. I do not know what the demand is like now for 23-27. Sometimes we're overloaded. So I would assume it's going to be on a semester, or a year by year basis. Like, how do we have a huge wait list or not? Um, so that's who I would go to for the exception if a student is just shy of being sophomore and, transferred in. That's who I'd go to. I don't see any reason why, except for the fact that we do have wait lists.
Yeah, and mine, like, I mean, like, they could try to get into the class without, like, it's early enough that they don't have to get on a wait list, but they can't get in it because they're not sophomore standing. So I'll
And
just make
sophomore
sure that
standing is how many credits short are they then, say, when they're 28? 2
two,
credits.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. So, I
I
would
have a lot of that.
I would write that to Gordon Law. You know Gordon? He's an interim chair for CCPA because, Sandy, Dr. Dewey, she went on sabbatical this year and is changing, stepped out of the chairmanship roles, coming back as faculty only next year. So Gordon Law is the interim chair, and then Melissa Keene manages all of the registration. She's like the one who does all the administrative work there.
Okay.
I think that's a really important question, and I wouldn't want those students to be unable to get in. So, and those are the two who could make it happen. I pulled up a few more students. So if I had students, but Harriet, she went the traditional public relations path. She's working for a public relations firm, and she's media relations. So she's working with the press is how I started. We're just straight media. And her client is General Motors within that particular agency. So our students might go work in-house, we call it. You go work for General Motors, or you work for an agency who actually serves General Motors, right? That's when we're billable, just like an attorney. So there are a wealth of opportunities, whether they are in-house within a corporation or a nonprofit, or in an agency that is serving. So those agencies have niches. An agency might specialize in fashion. It could specialize in tech. It could specialize in lobbying and political communication, can specialize in crisis, consumer, etc. So there's really that opportunity for you to, I call it crossing your passion. Like I, for example, worked in technology out of the gate, and then I today work in cybersecurity. But there is a part a journey in my path where I thought I might want consumer, and I quite honestly did not fit. But I was working for Orkin Pest Control and a lingerie company and Nike, and I didn't like it. It just wasn't me. I really needed to be in very complex. I needed complexity. I needed tech, and I needed high business stakes, and I needed to work with business leaders. I didn't want to be booking models to go down a runway, and that just wasn't me. So depending on the person, you can go through this track and go down what fits your personality. So that's why in 1301, I really bring in that part of learning about yourself so that you know that the path might be right for you, the degree might be right for you. Sometimes we get on the wrong path or the wrong industry, but we can just switch over and then we're happy because we have to be true to ourselves. And so there's a lot of different opportunities. And Cedar, an amazing student, she's with FTI Consulting, which is a well-known consulting firm, and she's a global trade consultant. And her major was public relations and strategic communication. And here's two more: legal, recruiting, and development. Emmy was an organizational communication major. And Bryce is now, I spoke with Bryce and mentored him, and he's now in seminary school. He was one of our top students in public relations and strategic communication, and also actually political public affairs. I taught him in 1301, and then he tracked public affairs. But he was a 1301 student. And now look at him, right? So it's really about what your passion is, and it can be an excellent underpinning